Good morning, everybody. It's a cloudy and rainy and a little bit cold day here in Sedona, which is rare. So hopefully it'll be gone tomorrow. But hey, I got into the studio a little bit earlier, and I wanted to shoot a video out that I heard a question, or I read a question in the forum about marketing and how should I go about this, to get X, Y, and Z. And obviously that's what we're going to ask every time with marketing, but I wanted to kind of pull it back a little bit and give you sort of an infrastructure of how we can think about marketing. And it doesn't really matter if, it's online internet marketing with Facebook and Instagram, or, ads that you run or anything else. So there's sort of these stages that we have to go through with marketing. And if you think about it, what we're trying to do is draw in a customer, right? So there's really kind of 5 stages of adoption when people decide that they're going to do something. And I had talked a little bit about this earlier, but I wanted to kind of dive into it a little bit deeper, give you some more information on it to maybe clarify it a little bit. So when we're putting out our service, so whether it be Pilates or physical therapy or go down the list, it doesn't really matter what it is. Like I said, there's people, when they're looking at your service, there's a 5 different stages that they go to adopt whatever it is that you're offering them from a service, okay? So the first thing is awareness, right? If they're not aware that you exist, it really doesn't matter. I mean, so we spend a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of energy at this phase, and this is really a great place to use social media because it's free, essentially. Just take some time, and you can hit people on a very regular basis. Now the question is, how do you get your numbers up in terms of that exposure, right? But that first level is really kind of the awareness, and the message is, for me as a customer, is, do I know who you are, right? If I don't know who you are, it doesn't matter. So once I know who you are and I've gotten to that awareness stage, the next stage is am I interested or not in what it is that you have to offer? So at this stage, we're gonna look at like collateral material and commercial engagement and again, social media and stuff like that. But my interest is starting to go, okay, is this something that I care about? Is it something that I'm willing to put some, invest some of my time into getting more information to see if it's the right fit? Okay, so first stage, kind of the beginning of the whole thing is awareness. The second stage is interest. And then once I'm interested, so let's assume that I'm interested in your service, then I go into an evaluation process, okay? I'm going to look at your website. I'm going to talk to people about who you are and what you do that maybe are part of your services, or if they've heard about you or whatever. So I'm going to go through this process of evaluation before I do anything, right? So I became aware. I have some interest now for whatever reason. I'm evaluating you. And so we talked a little bit about this before in terms of your brand. Does your brand match what people are saying? And from an evaluation perspective, am I going to get that message back going, okay, this is the right fit for me? Does it fit, right? It's the right fit for me. The next thing I'm going to do as a customer, potential customer, is I'm going to try it out, right? There's the trial period. So with trial, this is what we've talked quite a bit about in terms of, your discovery sessions or your consultations, introductory packages, 3 sessions for $199 or whatever it is, kind of this initial phase that you go through. Now, keep in mind, as I try you, when I go through this trial, I'm still evaluating. I'm still deciding, is it the right fit? So don't think just because you got somebody in the door and they're trying it out, you've gotten them to buy a package or they've done a consultation or whatever the case is, that they're going to take you up on your offer, okay? They may for this long. But the trick with this is we have to get to this final stage of adoption, right? So at this adoption stage, I've gone, okay, you know what, I'm aware this company exists, or this person, or this service. I'm interested in it because I think I need it. Okay, I'm going to evaluate it to make sure it's the right fit for me. I'm going to try it to, again, not just dip my toe in, but maybe get in a little bit deeper. And that's where I'm evaluating again. Is it something that fits for me, and do I want to stick with this? So again, our goal as a company, and really from a marketing perspective, is how do we get to that adoption stage, right? This is where, beliefs and values match, right? So as from my belief that what you're offering and the kind of person you are, the kind of company you are, I buy into, and I think it's a good thing, and I'm gonna stick with you because I believe in you, right? This being said, when we get to this adoption stage, particularly in exercise studios of any kind where somebody's coming in on a regular basis, and even with, a physical therapy or a healthcare practitioner kind of situation, that reality is they still have to come in to the end of their treatment. So I could come in for 2 or 3 sessions and go, yeah, it's fine, or I don't need it as much as I thought, or it doesn't match up, or whatever, right? And I kind of fade away. Usually that's the thing, is usually people will just fade away too. They don't just come to you and say, hey, by the way, this just doesn't fit for me. It doesn't feel right, or your values and beliefs aren't the same as mine, and so I'm out of here. They'll just basically kind of fade away. You'll call them, they won't answer the call. They won't return your emails, and they just sort of fade away, right? I mean, even from a perspective of, let's say somebody's come in and they buy, for example, a 10-class package. These are things to watch when they seem like they've adopted, but they're slowly, their frequency is getting further and further apart, right? So if somebody comes in twice a week and then all of a sudden they miss a time, and then they miss 2 times, and then they miss 2 again, and then so instead of being consistent with a couple times a week, it all of a sudden becomes like 1.5 times a week, once every couple weeks. At that point, you're at the risk of losing them. So keep in mind with this marketing piece that we're sort of looking at. Like I said, I mean, these 5 stages are what everybody goes through when they buy something, when they decide they want to do something. So in order to maintain it, we have to look at the processing behind it. We've talked a lot about systemization and to not as great of an extent, sales. You're selling every single time you see somebody, whether you realize it or not. We're selling all the time. And I know that a lot of people in this industry kind of hate that word. They don't like to sell because they're a practitioner of this process that they think is great, and the sales part feels kind of yucky. We'll talk more about that at a different time. But I think that you have to keep in mind that you're always selling. You're selling your brand, you're selling your personality, you're selling the process, you're selling your ideas. And this doesn't mean just with the product or the service that you're providing. It also is with, for example, with staff. I'm selling you on this idea right now, and again, we've talked about trust a lot. It kind of goes back to that to some extent, to a great extent. But you're always selling. So at some point, we have to get over this idea that selling is a bad thing. And it's not always about getting money for what you're selling. I mean, in a business, that's sort of what it is. But beyond that and underneath the surface, you're also selling concepts, you're selling ideas, you're selling trust, you're selling value, you're selling beliefs. You're selling all the time. So within this context, as we offer a service, okay, there's sort of this process called diffusion of innovation. There's a model called the diffusion of innovation model. And it basically says that there's people that are going to come in. Let's take a cell phone, for example. Simon Sinek, I go back to him a lot because I think he's great, but he talked about this in one of his presentations. And the top 2.5% are innovators. They're the ones that are going to have the pre-orders on things. They're going to stand in line to buy something like a phone, an iPhone. Then you have early adopters. That's the next 13.5-ish%. And those are the ones that are going to be really before everybody. So the first 16% of people, it's kind of, you got them no matter what you do, as long as they know that you're there, right? So what we're really looking at is this gap between the first 16% and everybody else, right? So there's the next phase is what we call early majority, okay? That's about 34-ish%. After that, we have late majority, and then we have the laggards, which is the last 16%, and they're never going to sign up, probably. I mean, we don't need to worry about those. Those are the guys that would still have flip phones if they could get them, because they're simple and they're easy and they like them. They like the safety of it. So really this massive, 68% in the middle, and that gap after 16%, the first 16% of people is really what we're looking at jumping. It's called jumping the chasm, right? How do we get past this gap of after that first 16%? So, and that's going to come into systems. It's going to come into things that you're doing, because the kind of that early majority are the people that they want to do it, but they're still a little they're a bit hesitant with it. So we have to give them reason and to show them that they're making the right decision with this. So once they're aware, once they're interested with the evaluation process, what is our message as we're going through this whole thing? Now, I don't care if you're doing this on social media, if you're doing it with your collateral material like cards and brochures, if you're doing it on your website. And in my mind, you need all of these things. I think that there's pieces of this that fit as part of the puzzle, but as we've talked about before, you need to have a consistency with your brand. You need to have a consistency with your message, and you have to understand that what causes people to make decisions, what causes that early majority to kind of decide, and we're jumping the chasm, is really unconscious, and it's a feeling that they get, and what you need to do in any marketing that you're doing is provide a feeling that fits, that matches, that gains confidence in the people that you're reaching out to. Part of that, again, is our internet marketing and our social media and our websites and all that stuff, but also, colors of the studio. There's decoration of the studio. There's the experience when they walk into the studio. I do a course, or a part of my course is on moments of truth, which I'll do another video on this too, because I think it's really important to realize that as people come in, what do they see? What do you see? What do you taste? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? All those things cause us to make decisions because they're connected in our brain, right? So as we go through this process, and this video simply today is really just about being aware that there's these 5 stages that everybody goes through when they decide, when they adopt, when they come into your studio, into your clinic, and decide that they want to take part of it and continue to take part of it. Don't diminish the people that have already purchased. In my business, when we had a studio that was about 8,000 square feet, and we had 15 to 20 employees, kind of on average. We always talked about selling again. You can't take for granted the people that are great customers, because those are usually the ones that get forgotten. They're usually the ones that kind of fall between the cracks, and eventually they sort of disappear, and it's like, what happened to those guys, right? So be aware that even though these 5 stages are kind of starting from ground zero, when we get to that adoption stage, keep in mind that we have to still market to those people. We still have to keep them excited to be in our funnel and in our circle. It's easier for sure, but it doesn't mean it's a no-brainer. So anyway, like I said, I just want to jump on this morning before we get going here on our day. Plus, it's like I said, it's sort of cloudy and cold outside, so we didn't go on our Monday morning hike, which we usually do. But again, 5 stages: awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, and adoption. Think about those stages, and when you're doing your marketing, when you're putting stuff together, which of those stages are you really going for? Because there's a different process and a different approach to some extent for each of those phases, and they're all important. If you forget one of those phases, you're going to lose people. You're not going to get people. So it is what it is. So let me know if you have questions. Comments below are always appreciated, and I love to give feedback. So anyway, again, I'm Sean Healy. Dragon Koi Coaching is my company, and I love to talk with you guys and give more information if you're interested in it. So again, think about these things and let me know your thoughts. Appreciate it. Have an awesome week, an awesome day, and I'll see you on the flip side.